Before we get started, I wanted to share my newest musical project. It's my debut album under this name, Imagination. It's called Inertia. Here's the vinyl cover right here. Here's the back of it. So with vinyls, obviously you need pre-orders to even get like a bunch of copies for me to sell. But if you want to stream it on Spotify, you can do so this Friday, October 24th. It's about 10 to 11 songs, all original stuff I've been working on for the past year. There's some top box on it. There's a lot of jazz piano on it. There's a lot of meditative stuff on this. There's spoken word on this. And I think it's just a really encompassing healing experience, just detailing my healing journey just from a musical standpoint. So I hope that you guys listen to it. And if you do want a vinyl, please DM me because I'm not about to spend $1,000 to sell 3 copies of a vinyl, bro. Nah, Trump is slashing everything right now. We can't afford to do anything at this point, just with money and stuff. So, anyways, here's the project. Shout out to Anna Chakma from Bangladesh that designed this cover and everything. It's really freaking cool. Look at that. Look at it. Look at it. Anyways, there you go. October 24th, Inertia out on all music platforms. Peace. Also, on top of the EP, I have my very own manga coming out. It's called The Pirate Samurai of Yukiana. I've worked on this for the last year. So this is like a good time for me to release all my creative projects that I've been working on for the past year. So I was working with the vinyl and this, side by side and stuff, just kind of getting all my creativity out. But follow Dojo District on Instagram. So we have I got a lot of cool artwork that I've posted. But here's the actual book. It's called Atomic Valor. This is based on the series I started 5 years ago where I was just kind of getting my feet wet into just writing and stuff and rediscovering my love for writing. And so over the past 5 years, I've obviously have evolved as a writer and as a creative and stuff. And I'm actually in full film school right now, getting a second bachelor's degree because I do want to do this full time. So this is it's all black everything, people of color stuff. About 130 pages. It makes a great Christmas gift. Like if you got like teenagers or kids, I mean, there's some cussing in there, I'm just gonna be honest. But if you have like kids and stuff, like this is like a cool thing to get them off their phones. And it's color coded too. So it's monochrome colored. So it's like easy to follow and it's very entertaining as well. It's basically my personality just all put into this. So follow Dojo District on Instagram, on TikTok. We got clips. We have a short film that's out that's won 3 awards. Shout out to my boy Shelly and Brandon and Wendy for putting that together and stuff. So this is kind of the next iteration of Dojo District. We're going to focus more on just the storytelling and sharing cool stories and stuff. And I have about 9 manga projects I'm planning right now. So I'm in a really prolific place right now. So I just appreciate your support. Like I said, this is a perfect Christmas gift. This comes out November 2nd. November 2nd on Amazon, on Kindle, on Roku. I'm trying to get into a few bookstores. It's a bit of a process, but I'm self-publishing this. I'm self-funding all of this stuff. So I hope that I put good energy out there so you guys can return the favor. So, like I said, I don't do this for money or anything. I'm doing this because I have the energy to do it. I'm blessed with the energy and the time and the bandwidth to do this. So, yeah, check it out. The Pirate Samurai of Yukiona. Peace. Welcome back to Musicianship Podcast. I'm your host, Lee, aka Imagination. Thank you for tuning in wherever you're listening. I really appreciate you guys keeping up. The last podcast, man, like it went viral. I will say I was surprised, just the story that I went through at that specific church and stuff, and talking to the bigger context of church musicians and church and stuff. I was not prepared for the response. It was overwhelmingly positive and stuff. And there was a lot of musicians and singers and even like, clergy that reached out to me like, yo, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that story. It really moved and touched them in a way where I was like, yeah, I think I was there for a reason to share that people like this exist. And we just gotta be careful who we call our spiritual fathers and spiritual partners and everything of that sort. So if you tuned in last time, thank you so much. Shout out to Raven. She'll join us later on the podcast and stuff, and we're gonna get into it. So let's talk about it. So what prompted me to do this podcast this time was the passing of Michael D'Angelo Archer. So there's me being a soul, neo soul, jazz musician. um, I have a different perspective. I think a deeper perspective in terms just of his musicality of D'Angelo and how much of a genius he is. So what I did the day he passed away, I saw people doing their tributes and everything. What I did is I went to the GQ interview that he did in I think 2012 or 2013. And D'Angelo rarely does interviews. Like there's probably three or four sit down interviews he's done in 30 years where he's actually like speaking at length about his life. He tries to keep it about the music, but it's life. It's his whole life. It's his upbringing from the time he grew up in the mountains of Virginia. Like he grew up uh in church. He grew up playing drums and piano at 4 years old. He grew up witnessing his father and his grandfather exorcising demons out of people at a young age. His father wouldn't even let him play the drums. He begged his father to play the drums when he was a kid, but that wasn't the case. And he was a gifted prodigy. He was a person that at 3 years old, his brother said, "Hey, he can hear anything and reduplicate it right away." At 3 years old, he was playing the organ at 4 years old. I didn't play the organ until I was about 13. And at 13, you can actually reach the pedals because there's a certain tonality that you have to like understand in order to play the organ. It's not like you're just doing this with the organ. It's voicings, it's block chords, it's sus chords, it's pedal tones. It's a lot of different things that goes into playing the organ. It's drawbar technique, what drawbars to pull out, what sound to get, what frequency to get. He had that at 4 years old. Corey Henry is another person I would kind of compare that to, where you just knew at that time, hey, bro, this guy is special. But D'Angelo is a church kid at heart. He's a kid that grew up in the church. He admired going to church. He loved singing in the church. But I think what happened is because of his spiritual gifts, there's a duality that he was tortured with, I think, for his entire life. And the two people I compare him to, and this is actually in the GQ article, is Marvin Gaye and Prince. Now, in terms of just musically, D'Angelo, in my opinion, is a mix of like Sly Stone, Marvin Gaye, Prince, and James Brown. He's like the best of all those versions, but in a contemporary hip hop backdrop. And because he was a student of the game, he's a student of music and stuff, he went sonically to places nobody else around his time can go. So when I got into D'Angelo, I was about, I want to say 16, 17. And Brown Sugar came out in 1995, so this is like 2001, 2000. So I grew up in a pretty sheltered household musically. Like I didn't listen to any Stevie Wonder, any Bob Marley. I didn't listen to any of it. Not because I just didn't know. Like all I listened to was like Kurt Franklin and the Wild Gospel CDs. I mean, if you're a church kid, you know about the Wild Gospel CDs and stuff. That was my kind of my gateway into what was going on secularly and stuff. So with D'Angelo, it was definitely a sonic shift that I knew occurred years earlier. And then I went back to the Cater Massenbergs and stuff and the Soulquarians. I did my homework and stuff. And the one thing I learned about that album is D'Angelo produced that and did everything on the album at 21 years old. He did not play the guitar though. He played everything else but guitar. He had Spanky, Rex in Peace, as a guitar player, but still, he was able to transcribe his artistic vision in a way that was so sonically potent and so sonically relevant. You can listen to it today and it still sounds fresh. It feels like you have entered a new time portal. And that's the type of stuff, that's the type of frequency he was on. And I think from that day until the day he passed, his genius was lauded by everybody. And I knew right away that there was a genius that I was listening to when I listened to him. I always say that the good artists can follow the rules and do the rules really, really well. Think about your favorite artists. Think about the context of your favorite artists in terms of what they produce. Do they make good content or are they rewriting the rules to create their own content? D'Angelo, it's the latter to me. He was a person, like you said, he went to the school of Prince. He went to the school of James Brown. He went to the school of Sly Stone. And from there, he was able to pull each element of their best stuff. And from there, create his own sound where it's equal parts raw, authentic, funky, soul, and African. African at its core. It hits to the root. It's to the root of your being. You feel it in your soul. It's undeniable. Genius to me is just undeniability. Now, there's certain different kinds of geniuses. I mean, Kanye. But in terms of his music, for the most part, his music is undeniable. So with D'Angelo, I feel like, rightfully so, he was lauded as a genius during his lifetime. And but what I want to focus on is the torture side of being a genius. And I'm not professing to be any kind of genius like he is. I feel like I have some genius in me, but it's not to that level. But in the GQ article, he talks about Marvin Gaye, and he had like three or four specific dreams about Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye was kind of a similar type of soul. There's a great autobiography called Divided Soul. It's one of the best autobiographies I've ever read about Marvin Gaye. Well, just in general, just Rick James, in my opinion, is the best. Rick James by far is the best autobiography of all time. Anyways, so with Marvin Gaye and stuff, there is a duality that he faced in terms of just trying to stay towards the light and not trying to come to the darkness. Prince, same way. Controversy, 1999. He addresses all of that, the spirituality of just being a dual person, having duality as you exist in the universe. Where he was like, we're not going to let the elevator bring us down. That's a allegory to about being, going to hell and stuff. And there's a lot of light in Prince's music. There's a lot of light in Marvin Gaye's music, but it comes from a torture place. And I think with D'Angelo, he was a tortured genius. He was a genius that clearly did not fit into the confines of this third dimensional world that we live in. He was a portal. He was somebody that produced art on a supernatural level where literally, and I think this is the coolest thing about D'Angelo. 30 years, three albums. With those three albums, we were able to basically absorb D'Angelo's music. We had time to absorb it. There at the time he came out in the industry, it was every, year or two, you release an album to keep the momentum up and build your fan base and tour and everything. He wasn't on that. Clyde Davis offered him like a $3 million contract at J Records after Voodoo for him to put a follow-up project out. After Voodoo, $3 million, and he never did it. He never did it. Clyde Davis let him go, and then D'Angelo went through his demons trying to figure out what his new sound was like. Also, this is so crazy. In that article, D'Angelo didn't learn guitar until after Voodoo. That's crazy. And if you talk to like Isaiah Sharkey, his guitar player, if you talk to anybody, Clapton, they're like he was as good at the guitar as any of his contemporaries, just as good. So the fact that he had the discipline and the supernatural ability to learn the guitar, I play six instruments. I cannot learn guitar to save the life for me. I don't have the discipline. I don't have the experience. I don't have the Raven could probably talk to this more, but I don't have that mechanical glitch that that tells me, okay, I need to put my. He did that after Voodoo. That's crazy, and he talks about struggling to play the guitar and singing live at the same time, which is really hard to do with any instrument, but with the guitar specifically, because one, there's such a high bar. Just everybody wants to be a rock star, and it's hard to be distinct in that my in that environment and stuff. So with D'Angelo, the fact that he taught himself guitar after Voodoo is just to me just speaks to just so much more of his genius. The songwriting, the arrangement with Questlove, like Questlove and D'Angelo basically were like, yeah, we just listened to Prince for like 4 years before we did Voodoo. It's all you need is Prince. But I think D'Angelo was a student first and foremost. And I think what he wanted to show us, especially in his interviews, I've seen every single D'Angelo interview. What he wanted to show us was that he was a student of music. He was a student of the classics. He was a student. He was a Bjork fan, Byork, Bjork fan. He was a fan of all the African traditions, voodoo. He talked about voodoo being basically soul, and that voodoo is basically an extension of our supernatural abilities. And the things with the Black Messiah, he was just more talking about the times. I remember when this happened. That was like right after the Mike Brown Ferguson police brutality situation where we were fed up, and I remember him dropping the album like during that time and stuff, and everybody stopped like, wait a minute, did D'Angelo just dropped a record? And people rush to get it and stuff. And it's taking some time for people to like grow to it. It is a bit deep. It's really, really layered. You have to really sit with it and play it from front to back to front to back to front, in order to really appreciate the true genius of the album. I won't say it's his best album. I think all three of them are on equal footing in terms of just the production, the songwriting, the songs themselves. They're all on equal footing on that regard. But I think in terms of impact, the reason why D'Angelo kind of spiraled after Voodoo was because he became a sex symbol. And he resented everything about that because he knew he was trying to stay away from that side. He was trying to keep it about music. He wasn't trying to keep it about his body. And he talks about in that GQ article about women throwing money at him while he's on stage, like he's a piece of meat and stuff. And he resented that. He resented the fact that he was a sex symbol and it was overshadowing his genius. And that's why he went on that journey of darkness, trying to understand who he was as a person. So I hope when people are doing covers and doing tributes to D'Angelo, you be careful, please. And let me explain. So as musicians, as creatives, some things are sacrilegious to me. Like, if some people just can't, like, Janelle Monáe is amazing. That is my hall pass. I love her. But I think at the Grammys last year, she did Michael Jackson tribute, and she sounded great. But she got a lot of flack online because it's like, it's not Michael. And I'm like, no, she's not Michael. She's Janelle Monáe. And because Michael has set such a high bar that's almost impossible for anybody to reach. I feel the same way about Prince. I feel the same way about D'Angelo. It's such a high bar. It's not enough just to sing falsetto. It's not enough to sing six-part harmonies. It's not enough to play all your own instruments. It's not enough to do certain chord progressions or soul progressions where they make sense and it's sonically different. It's not about that. At 4 years old, he was watching his father and grandfather exorcise demons. There is a certain level of supernatural gifts that he has that's been fortified by hours upon hours of studying music, studying church, being in church, finding his gift, finding his voice, and being in positions to produce his own art on his own terms. And I think that's the one thing we really love and appreciate about him. He did all of this on his own terms in a time where in the industry you don't do things on your own terms. Typically, had one or two albums. He has so much respect from the industry where it's just like, man, we're just lucky just to get a glimpse of this dude. And I think as artists and I think as creatives, that's something we should aspire to. We should aspire to be somebody that, people crave our light, they crave our presence. But at the same time, we're not going to put ourselves out there all the time and overexpose. And I'm posting pictures every day about what I'm doing. No, 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 no. I think it's okay just to take a step back, being in your own universe, like I have, be in your own universe, build it, create it, and then come back and wham, manga. EP, Brown Sugar, Voodoo, Black Messiah, D'Angelo. So those are my thoughts on D'Angelo and stuff. So I hope that was educational. I hope it was informative. And rest in peace to him. His music will live on. And I'm glad that we got a chance to experience him while he was here. And it is sad because I feel like just reading about him and just reading his interviews, he knew he wasn't here for a long time. And because he knew that he wasn't going to be here for a very, very long time, he gave his best to music. I am curious though about the vault. I want to know the stuff that he hasn't released, and hopefully his estate can present it in a way where it's tasteful, it was in his will, and we get a chance to absorb a little bit more genius because it has been 11 years since he did an album, and he's done a couple of festivals and shows and stuff since then. But I think that the real mark of a genius is that there's no limit to where their mind has gone, and they give you places to explore, and they give you places to just bask in and just be in awe, and gets you to a place where you're not even analyzing what's going on. You're just in it. And I think as musicians and as creators, we got to get back to that space. So that's my D'Angelo take, man. So rest in peace to him. Coming back, we'll talk about the worst hip hop bar in hip hop history. And I stand by it. I've said it for 12 years, and y'all about to get this. So, Musicianship Podcast. We'll be back. And we're back. Welcome back to Musicianship Podcast. I am your host, Lee, aka Imagination. Thank you for tuning in. So let's talk about Tyler, the creator. Um, Here's my first Tyler, the creator story. And it gives kind of context into like kind of where his mindset was at the time he did those tweets. So I want to say it was 2012 or 2013. I was out South by Southwest. And if you've been to South by Southwest, you know like the most exclusive place to be at that time was called the Fader Fort. So at Fader Fort, I saw Diddy, actually a pretty good performer. I saw Malcolm Moore, he just came out. I saw Bun B. I think Earl Sweatshirt was like one of his very first shows and stuff. And I'm a big fan of Earl Sweatshirt, just on and off the mic, just brilliant, thinker, progressive. And then so I'm standing here with my boys and stuff. I am drunk as hell. And so I'm just watching Earl Sweatshirt. He's getting his bars off and everything. All of a sudden on the right, I hear like two girls like swinging at each other in Fader Fort. This is like the most, I was yeah, it's probably the most exclusive place to be in. And so I look over and I see Tyler the Creator. First of all, Tyler the Creator is like 6'2", 6'3". That's a tall dude. I didn't realize he was that tall. Second, they're fighting and like Tyler like looks at both of them. He laughs and walks away. So I'm like, I hit my boy up. I'm like, yo, was that Tyler? He's like, yeah, it's Tyler. I was like, okay. That's story one. Story two, really cool party. It's one of the coolest parties I've ever been to. I went to an Odd Future party in like 2015, 16. They were at Rostrum Records in, I want to say, Midtown LA, downtown LA. My homegirl Waverly, shout out to Waverly, hooked me up with this party, and it's like a release party that they were featuring the new Mortal Kombat game. And inside this building is a really cool like warehouse looking studio and stuff. There's two or three floors. So I walk in and stuff, and I'm like, "Yo, this is really cool." I see Tyler, I see Jasper from our future, and I started playing Mortal Kombat with Mike G from our future. Cool dude. I was like, "Yo, this is one of the coolest parties I've ever been to." They were serving, I think, Mountain Dew. Don't know, but those are my two limited Tyler the Creator stories. But I want to shoot him some bail because if you were on Twitter from 2008, 2009 to about 2013, 14, that was, in my opinion, the most unhinged era of social media. It was an era where we were trying to figure things out. We were trying to figure out where the line was. And the way Tyler started his career was being a kind of a shock horror core type of rapper. I remember when Goblins premiered on the Jimmy Fallon show, and people were like, "Yo, who is this dude?" This like he's like Like they were comparing him to Eminem. They were comparing him to Eminem in terms of the gore and just the imagery, and he was saying the F word. I think 3 or 4 times in that song and killing people. This is on Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon is the safest talk show host there is. And so he started out that way. And I saw some of the tweets that he posted about being anti-black and everything. And I just think that around that time, I said some crazy things too. I'm not gonna lie. I think all of us have. If you were on Twitter at that time, you said some crazy things that you probably regret. You were trying to find the line. I just think there was just this giant creative manic energy around, and we had access to so many thoughts that we probably should have held back. But at the time, it was cathartic. It was a adrenaline rush. It was a dopamine rush. We were getting engagement. We were building our followers, our fan bases. And then from there, certain people were able to capitalize off of that and create their own content and cater to their own bases and stuff. That's why Twitter is whack now because it used to be like, okay, we're all kind of in this. There's no celebrities, there's no ads. And then from there, everything kind of just metamorphosed into just everybody's kind of their own territorial corners trying to grasp to the people or the following that they have to create content. But with Tyler, Tyler did most of that on Tumblr, and his Tumblr is Tumblr, Tumblr. See, I'm 40. I was on Tumblr. Anyways, his Tumblr is where he got, that's where he basically built his entire fan base. That's where he built Our Future. He built the record label. He was basically a one-man record label and stuff. In that, being from LA, being from that kind of background and stuff, there was no line that he wasn't crossing in anything he was saying. He was just saying the first thing that came to his mind and stuff. And like I said, I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just letting you know, hey, I was around during that time, and I just know that it from him to Kevin Hart to like there's a bunch of people that just says some regrettable things. And I think what we need to do is like I think this is what's going on. And I don't want to make this political, but I really think this is true. Like I saw this with Lovey, I saw this with the Man the Seals. I'm seeing this with just a bunch of, Twitter personalities. But like these are distractions into something much more sinister that's going on in the world right now. You feel me? If you are paying attention to the news, if you are watching the news, if you are seeing how our government is literally at war with our people and people in general, I just think we have bigger things to worry about. And I think that it's okay to hold people accountable. But in this scenario, Tyler was just giving a tribute to D'Angelo. And from there, his fan base is the one that basically charged him and basically charged up and had this really horrific response to him just giving tribute to somebody that influenced him. I strongly believe that D'Angelo influenced Tyler the Creator. I mean, if you're a black creative, we're around the same age. Like D'Angelo is undeniable. You couldn't escape his influence or anything of that sort. So I felt like it came from a genuine place, but I think people took that as an opportunity to bring him down. And the one thing I keep harping back to is that always pay attention when an artist is winning a little too much. Tyler, the Creator, arguably has had one of the best years in hip hop. He's dropped two undeniably amazing albums. He's had sold out tours and stuff. He's a one man show. His creative energy is just so infectious and stuff. And he also speaks truth to power. He's not a person that bites his tongue. He's going to say what's on his heart. He's going to say what's on his mind. And I feel like we should appreciate the evolution of Tyler, and I'm sure that if you were to look back at that stuff, he would acknowledge, hey, I was on some bullshit. We all were. I'm sorry. I don't have those same feelings anymore. I'm not anti-black. They're playing his stuff at HBCUs now. Like he embraces everything that is about black culture. And I think the other conversation is, the African versus American black. We're not doing that here. We will never do that here because, you know, we're all we're the original man, regardless of when we got in the boat. So I just feel like we gotta shoot Tyra a little bit more bail and just applaud him for his evolution while at the same time holding him accountable for what he says. Because what he did say is very alarming. I'm sure if my kids read it, they would read it, but they wouldn't be like, oh wow, Tyler thinks this way, so I gotta think this way too. No, be a parent. Teach your kids how to think, have them understand values, and from there they can decipher for themselves what is controversial and what's not. And I think sometimes we just have all this misguided anger, and it's not our fault. It's just the climate and just the heaviness and the tension of just this past 8 or 9 months. It's been a heavy year. It's been a year of grief. It's been a year of strife. It's been a year where we had to work harder just to be happy and to spend money and enjoy time with our loved ones. And there's a shift that's going on right now too in all that. There's a shift in consciousness, there's a shift in how we're thinking about our politicians, our families, our religion specifically. And if you watched the last podcast, that was a precursor to the Charlie Kirk situation, where I think the psychosis of just white nationalist Christianity has really drawn a line between, okay, what is of Christ and who is capitalizing off of Christ and who is using Christ as PR, whereas who are the people that are actually living Christ consciousness. That line was drawn at that time. So I just feel like we need to pay attention to what's going on from a broader context, a broader standpoint of the world before we start directing our energy and our anger towards celebrities that don't know us. Like go look up a food bank where you can donate to people. Go do some community service. Go outside, touch grass. Go talk to people that aren't in your regular circle. Go volunteer. We have so much more productive things we can be doing with our time. And I just feel like if you want to get outraged, you can just turn on your phone. But sometimes we just gotta be above that. And I think with Tyler, we just gotta shoot him some bail in that regard. We have bigger issues. bro, this is some dark times, and I just pray that, the light shows up soon, because it feels like it's going to get a little bit darker before light comes back into the play. So that's my opinion on Tyler, the Creator. I wish him nothing but the best, and I just feel like, hey, if it, I think sometimes we have to make sure we separate the fans from the actual artist. Sometimes his fans are rowdy, they're fanatical. If you watch an Odd Future show, it's total chaos. I was at an Odd Future show. It's chaos. It's like a mosh pit. It is edgy. It is the niggas jumping off stage and stuff. They're not on that anymore. But I'm saying, like, the start of his fan base was rowdy, radical. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm out here. I'm gonna say what I want. Tyler empowers me to act this way. And I think those very same fans, in a moment where Tyler had a moment of vulnerability, jumped on that and took advantage of his vulnerability as a launching pad to get off their grievances with him, which I think is totally unfair. And I hope that when it comes to holding people accountable, we won't wait for a death of a generational artist to have those conversations. Musicianship Podcast. Welcome back. I'm gonna keep this very brief. I can't believe you guys keep doing this to me. Okay. Anytime this man shows up in a movie, cartoon, a rap song, a Fast and the Furious movie, somebody always sends me a balloon. Always. It never fails. Just a mere mention of his name will have my inbox flooded with balloons. I'm here to let you know I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. Because until we accept that I Fill Her Up Balloons is the worst hip hop bar in history, we will never have peace in this country. We will never have peace with our loved ones. That by far has given me nightmares. That bar. I fill her up balloons. I fill her up. Like, you got like a helium chamber right here that you put into the balloon, and you blow the balloon up, and you give it to a kid. That man decided to use that in a hip hop bar. He used that in a rap song and thought he was spitting. I don't have a single song from this guy anymore. After that, I literally deleted every song of his catalog. I bought Chicken and Beer at Sam Goody. I bought his albums. I listened to him nonstop. He's funny. He's charismatic. He can rap. He's skilled. He's successful. He's arguably one of the most successful hip hop artists of all time. But I have not known peace since he made that song, Might Chick Bad. Rest in peace to my best friend Nacho. But anytime I was in the club, there are friends that can attest to this. That song would come on in the club, and I would walk out. Sometimes I'll have to pay to get back in. But I was like, no, I'm not doing this. Because people they would yell balloons at me. I'd walk out, wait for the song to end, then I would come back. It's been tough. It's been tough. I fill her up. Balloons. It wasn't even rhyming with anything. That's where he started. That's where the punch bar, the lines started. I fill her up. Balloons. I'm sure when you see this clip, you're gonna put balloons in the comments, and that's okay. I've accepted. I've carried my cross for this. I don't mind being the person being like, this is the worst hip hop bar of all time. I don't mind. I really don't. But just know, I haven't known peace since that day. And I ask that you pray for my mental health. You pray for my family's mental health. And you pray for everybody that's been affected by that hip hop bar. There's been a lot of bad bars, a lot of bad rap bars, a lot of bad punchlines, bad songs, bad artists. But something about that bar sends me over the edge. Sorry for looking at the camera this way, but I'm dead serious. You can send me balloons. It's okay. It's fun. I get it. I get it. I'm gonna send leaders. Do it. It's okay. I've accepted my fate. I've accepted my cross. And let's take a deep breath. We're gonna get through this together. Okay? We're gonna get through this together. So I ask that you stick with me in all this, and we'll get through this. Musicianship Podcast.